There's a massive way that Mike Norvell could help FSU football, but will he do it? I'm going to chat with Richie about that in today's video presented by BetUS. So, I've talked about this a little bit off air, Richie, and just want to kind of get your take on this. But a few years ago, when Michigan went 2-4 in that COVID shortened year, I don't know if this was Harbaugh doing this like out of the goodness of his heart, or if he kind of got told by Michigan's, brass, like, hey, you're going to do this, because he had just gotten a big extension too. But Harbaugh took a pay cut, and he took a pay cut because he basically replaced 60% of his staff and moved some other guys around, and other guys had to take pay cut. Like, he took a pay cut to essentially help undo what he had done in some of the extensions and some of the firings that he had to do. And I'll tell you, Michigan's got money, right? Like, they weren't hurting for the money. They certainly were in a better financial spot than we are. Mike Norvell making $10 million a year and is probably going to finish with 10 or more losses. I'll call for it. Yeah, Mike Norvell should absolutely take a pay cut to help Florida State with what is going to be a very expensive coaching turnover, right? Like, you have a top 15 paid staff in all of college football, and you're going to have to fire more than half of them, I believe. If not, we won't do previews next year. We will literally just say that we should fire Norvell every single Wednesday night. But I think Mike Norvell should take a pay cut after this season. Whether that's disclosed or not I don't care. Like, it doesn't need to. Now, I do think that if it was disclosed, that would be a really good way to kind of maybe win back some favor with this fan base that has completely given up on him. But I think that if you believe in the standard and you believe in all this bullcrap about how you do anything is how you do everything, I think Norvell should do what Harbaugh did and take a pay cut to help Florida State offload some of this. I'm not saying he needs to give up half his salary. I'm not going crazy with anything like that. But if he said, I'm making $10 million next year, I'm going to put $2 million back into hiring a new staff or buying out this staff, because ultimately it falls on me. If you're going to practice what you preach and practice accountability and preach accountability and all these things, you need to suffer a little bit of a consequence. And I will say, suffering a consequence of making $8 million as opposed to $10 million is quite a small price to pay in the grand scheme of things. When you look at some of the money that's been lost by local Tallahassee businesses, when you look at the money that the Battle's End and the Seminole Boosters and different organizations are going to lose, going from $10 million to $8 million is a pretty small price to pay, in my opinion. Again, it's not my money, but I think that should be something Mike Norvell does.
Yeah. So, TJ, you and I have both been, and probably every listener, if you're tuning into our show today, you've probably been to one of these spring Seminole Booster tours. And what are those going to look like next year? Especially if no changes are made. And I do think changes will be made. But I think Mike Norvell should absolutely say, listen, I'll give back a little bit of what I'm contracted to earn. And, wealthy people never want to lose a penny. My wealthiest friends are the cheapest people I know. But to your point, TJ, it's the difference between $10 and $8 million. It's not that big of a deal. And I just think it could be very contentious on that spring booster tour next year if he doesn't make the changes he needs to make. I think he will make some. I think he'll make. I don't know if we'll make as many as we want, as much as we think need to be made. But this could get really bad really quickly. And, by the way, next year, first game, Alabama. Yeah, that's going to be a great start to the season. And that game will sell out easy. Mads will be sold out. Garnet and Gold will sell a ton of merch. But if you lose that game the way I think you're going to lose it, with how everything is in place right now, you're going to have a really hard time filling that stadium that you just spent $400 million on to renovate.
We'll get right back to chatting with Richie, but first, let me give some love to our friends over at BetUS. I know the season hasn't gone the way that you guys may have wanted it to, but I have continued to bring in the profits over on BetUS this year. Every week on my national channel, College Football Addiction, I post 3 bets. We're up over there at like 55, 60% on our bets. So if you're following along there, you can make some money as well. Listen, you can make some money just by signing up. YouTube 150, that's 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit. Your next two are at 125% each. That's up to $2,000. Make sure that you're playing with BetUS and following along over on College Football Addiction with our weekly picks. Yeah. You've also got the money going to the football only facility. Obviously, you have a $30 to $50 million gap between SEC programs. Obviously, when you think about where we were in December and you think like how Mike Norvell was a 10 out of 10 in our minds, like we were all the way bought into everything he sold. And you think about it now, I mean, most fans are at a 0 or 1 or 2 or whatever, like somewhere pretty low. Obviously it's not going to undo this season, but what do you think it would do from a fan perspective if he did come out on record and say like, look, I take accountability for this. I'm going to put $2 million of my own money back into the program. I'm going to take less money this year to help like it obviously is not going to take people back up to where they were a year ago, right? Like where he's the greatest coach of all time and Bobby 2.0 and all this other crap. But I do think it would make me respect him. Like you can't say the buck starts with me and stops with me and own it without being part of the solution. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like how much do you think it would kind of win back some of the fan base?
I don't think it wins back the fan base at all. I do think it gives him the slightest bit of grace because at that point fans could say, okay, at least you're willing to put your own money up, to show, listen, I screwed up. Self-accountability is something in life that I think people don't respect enough. And that would be him taking accountability for his own failures. And he has failed the past, 9 months. And it is what it is. He had a phenomenal 2023 season, but here we are right now. He's the one who built this entire roster. It's like we don't have leftovers from Willie Taggart or Jimbo Fisher at this point. This roster he has is what he built. And if he were to take accountability and say, listen, I made some mistakes along the way. I've been learning, but here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put my own money up to say, hey, listen, I'm here to help financially to make sure I can get a better staff around me. And you have to be careful about how you phrase that because Mike Norvell, I think it's a strength and also a weakness. He truly does care about every single person he works with. I don't think you could say that about Jimbo Fisher. And he's not going to throw any of them under the bus. But I think it is a weakness in terms of he will not move on as soon as he should. And, that's a problem when you are in a results-oriented business. We'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, no, I think it would be something that would, be kind of ideal. I don't expect it to happen. But I do think it's something that likely should happen. We'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong on that. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that Mike Norvell may do this? Do you think this would be an honorable thing to do? I know half of you want him to be fired or step down anyway, but if that's not a reality, is this something that may buy him some favor back in your eyes? I know it certainly would with me, right? Does it fix everything? No. But I do think for somebody that's making the money that he's making, this would be a good option for him. Again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate BetUS for their support. We'll talk to you guys soon.